He walked away from her at the very moment she needed him the most. After all the pain, after daring to believe in hope, all Anna received was betrayal. But before that cruel ending, there was a moment when the world seemed to open its arms to her. In a quiet village, whispers spread about the arrival of a wealthy and powerful man, Mr. Adrian. Families polished their best silverware, mothers pushed their daughters into fine dresses, and everyone was certain Adrian would choose Bella, the radiant young woman adored by her mother. Yet to everyone's shock, his eyes didn't settle on Bella. Instead, they found Anna, the quiet, gentle girl who had only ever known hardship. For the very first time, Anna felt something she had never felt before, the trembling spark of hope. Could this man be the doorway out of her prison? Could he be the one to see her heart rather than her scars? But where light dares to shine, shadows grow even darker. Madame Rosa and Bella could not bear the thought of Anna rising above them. Behind polite smiles and rehearsed words at the dinner table, their envy sharpened into something dangerous. A glass of hot water accidentally spilled, a glare quickly disguised as kindness, and beneath it all, plans far more sinister were already rooting true. Was this truly Anna's chance at a new life? Or was fate preparing to drag her into a nightmare even she could not imagine? Mr. Adrian's arrival shook the small village like a sudden storm. He was not just another wealthy man passing through. He carried himself with a calm authority, his tailored suit and measured steps making the villagers whisper in awe. Mothers nudged their daughters forward, hoping to catch his attention, while fathers straightened their backs, eager to be noticed. Everyone assumed his choice was obvious. Bella, with her delicate face and carefully rehearsed smile, seemed the perfect match for a man of power. But to the surprise of all, Adrian's gaze lingered elsewhere. He noticed Anna. She was not dressed in silks or jewelry. She wore the same simple clothes she had always worn, her hands still marked from endless chores. Yet there was something in the way she carried herself, quiet but resilient, a light hidden beneath years of shadow. For the first time, Anna felt seen, and in that moment her heart whispered a dangerous thought. Maybe life was about to change. Hope filled her like a fragile flame. She imagined a world beyond Madame Rosa's cruelty, a place where she might finally breathe freely. But across the table, Rosa's face tightened, her smile frozen. Bella's eyes burned with disbelief and rage. This was not how the story was supposed to unfold. Bella had been promised admiration, wealth, and a future carved in gold. Now Anna's very presence threatened to steal it all. That night, Madame Rosa began her performance. She prepared a grand dinner, dishes richer than anything Anna had ever tasted. She even placed the best morsels onto Anna's plate, her voice dripping with false sweetness. To Adrian, it looked like kindness. But to Anna, those gestures carried a weight she could not ignore. Beneath the warmth of the candlelight, she caught the sharp glances Bella threw at her, the tight grip of a fork held just a little too long. Something was wrong, yet hope pushed her to stay silent. Then came the first warning. A glass of hot water tipped, spilling across Anna's hand. Bella gasped, rushing to apologize with a smile too quick, too rehearsed. Adrian brushed it aside as an accident, but Anna felt the sting deeper than her skin. Her instincts told her she was stepping into dangerous territory. Still, she clung to her hope. Because for Anna, hope was all she had ever wanted, and she could not let it go. Not yet. The dinner that was meant to impress Mr. Adrian did not end with laughter or joy. It ended with whispers behind closed doors. That very night, while Anna cleaned the dishes alone in the dim kitchen, Madame Rosa and Bella sat together in hushed conversation. Their words carried the sharpness of knives. They could not allow Anna to take what was meant for Bella. Rosa's eyes gleamed with calculation, while Bella's lips curled in a cruel smile. They spoke not of fairness or family, but of destroying the fragile spark that had begun to shine in Anna's life. Anna sensed it. Every movement in the house felt heavier, every glance more piercing. But she tried to convince herself she was imagining it. Perhaps she was simply too afraid of happiness, too used to suffering to believe in kindness. She told herself to be strong, that maybe her fear was wrong. Days passed, and Adrian's visits became more frequent. He asked questions, watched Anna with interest, and seemed drawn to her gentle nature. Each time he looked her way, Rosa's and Bella's hatred deepened. Their plan took shape in silence. They would not allow Anna's face, her quiet dignity, to outshine Bella. If Anna was to be destroyed, it would be from the outside in. The moment came suddenly. One evening, Anna was called into the courtyard. The air was cool, the moon hanging above like a witness too distant to intervene. A shadow moved, and then a splash of liquid cut through the darkness. Pain seared across Anna's skin. It was not water this time. It was acid. Her scream tore through the night, raw and unending, a cry that should have shaken every wall in the village. Her hands clawed at her face as her skin burned, blistering with agony. The pain was unbearable, but worse than the fire was the laughter that echoed nearby. Bella stood watching, her eyes shining with a cruel satisfaction. Madame Rosa's expression was colder than stone. Anna collapsed, her body trembling, her soul torn open. Yet in that moment, she searched for one person. She searched for Adrian. Surely, she thought, he would come. Surely he would stay beside her, hold her through the storm. But when Adrian arrived, fear clouded his eyes. He did not kneel beside her, did not reach out. Instead, he stepped back, shaking his head, whispering excuses she could barely hear. And then he turned away. Anna lay in the dirt, broken and burning, while the man who could have saved her chose to leave. Hope had been a fragile flame. Now it was gone, extinguished in the coldest way possible. The night after the attack stretched endlessly, every hour filled with pain. Anna lay on a thin mat, her face and arms wrapped in rough bandages that did little to ease the burning. Every breath was sharp, every movement unbearable. She reached out in the darkness, hoping someone would hold her hand, but there was no one. The silence around her was louder than her screams had been. By morning, the whispers began. Villagers who had once ignored her suffering now gathered in small circles, talking in hushed tones. They shook their heads, pity in their eyes, but none dared step closer. To them, Anna had become something else, a warning, a tragedy too heavy to carry. Children were pulled away when they tried to look at her, doors closed when she walked by. She was alive, but the world had decided she no longer belonged. Anna herself could hardly recognize the reflection staring back at her in a cracked mirror. Her once soft features were marred, her skin scarred and twisted by fire. She touched her face with trembling fingers and felt the sharp stab of grief. She had lost not only her hope, but her very self. In those lonely days, the memory of Adrian haunted her most. She could still see his face, the way he had turned from her, fear stronger than love in his eyes. That wound cut deeper than the acid.
It told her that she was not only unwanted by her family, but unworthy of anyone's courage. Madame Rosa and Bella, meanwhile, moved on as if nothing had happened. Bella's laughter still filled the house, and Rosa still carried herself with pride. To them, Anna's pain was not a tragedy, but a victory. Each time Anna limped past them, their eyes met hers with cold satisfaction. She was a prisoner still, but the chains were her scars. At night, Anna clutched the old pillow she had carried since childhood, its fabric torn, its stuffing thin. It was the only thing in the world that had never betrayed her. She pressed it against her chest and let silent tears fall. She wondered if she would ever know kindness, or if life would always be a series of punishments without reason. Yet somewhere beneath all that sorrow, a quiet ember remained. It was not hope, not yet, but something raw, something born of pain itself. Anna did not know it then, but the same fire that had scarred her was also shaping her, and in time, that ember would grow into a force stronger than anyone in the village could imagine.
Days blurred into weeks. Anna moved through them like a shadow, her body frail, her spirit shattered. The villagers avoided her, some out of pity, others out of fear. Even her steps sounded different now, dragging along the dirt road as if the ground itself carried her pain. But despite the weight of her scars, she continued to rise each morning. She swept the yard, washed the clothes, cooked meals that she was rarely allowed to eat. Work had always been her only language of survival, and even in ruin, she clung to it. One afternoon, as she carried a bucket of water from the well, her weakened arms gave out. The bucket slipped, splashing mud across her torn skirt. She fell to her knees, too exhausted to rise. For the first time in weeks, she did not try to hide her tears. They rolled down her scarred face freely, drops of grief and surrender mixing with the dirt. And that was when she heard footsteps. A man approached, not with hurried disdain like the others, but with a quiet gentleness. He knelt beside her, lifting the bucket with ease. His voice was steady, unhurried, carrying no judgment. He asked her if she was hurt, if she needed help. Anna froze. She had almost forgotten what kindness sounded like. She looked at him through wary eyes, unsure whether to believe. He introduced himself simply as David, a traveler passing through, a man whose gaze lingered not on her scars, but on her strength. For the first time since the attack, someone saw more than the damage. David did not flinch. He did not step back. Instead, he walked beside her, carrying the weight she could no longer bear. His presence was not grand, not dramatic. It was quiet, like the steady glow of a lantern in a storm. That night, Anna thought about the encounter over and over. It frightened her to hope again. She had been betrayed before, abandoned when she needed love most. But David's eyes had not carried fear. They had carried recognition, as though he too had known suffering. Anna lay awake long after the house fell silent. She touched the old pillow against her chest and whispered a thought she dared not speak aloud. Perhaps, just perhaps, life had not finished with her yet. Perhaps there was still a reason to endure. And for the first time in a long while, Anna drifted to sleep not with tears, but with a fragile flicker of peace.
The days after David's arrival were quiet, almost peaceful in a way Anna had not known for years. She continued her daily chores, but now the work felt lighter, less oppressive. His presence was steady, a silent reassurance that she did not have to carry the weight of the world alone. He did not rush her, nor did he demand her gratitude. He simply existed beside her, a calm shadow and a life that had been nothing but pain. Anna found herself watching him as he moved through the small tasks of daily life, how he carried water with careful hands, how he noticed small details, how he treated even the simplest things with patience. It was as if he saw the beauty in ordinary moments, a beauty Anna had almost forgotten existed. For the first time, she dared to imagine that someone could care without fear or expectation. Rosa and Bella, however, were not blind. From across the yard, Rosa's sharp eyes tracked every interaction, every glance. Bella's smile no longer carried warmth. It was edged with something colder, a mix of curiosity and irritation. Anna could sense it, even without words. They watched her as if she were a puzzle to be solved, a piece of their carefully controlled world that was slipping out of place. Despite their gaze, Anna began to take small risks. She spoke to David in low tones, asking questions, sharing fragments of her past. Each word was heavy with caution, but David never recoiled. He listened, truly listened, as if her voice carried weight beyond the simple facts she shared. And each time she spoke, the fear that had gripped her chest for so long loosened, ever so slightly. One afternoon, as the sun warmed the yard, David handed her a small bundle of herbs he had gathered. He explained how they could be used to ease the burn marks, to soothe the skin. Anna's hands trembled as she accepted them, unsure whether to trust. But he smiled, a quiet, patient smile, and in that moment, something inside her shifted. Hope, fragile and cautious, began to bloom again. She did not allow herself to dream too far, for fear of betrayal. Yet she let herself imagine a life where pain was not constant, where someone could see her worth beyond her scars. She began to understand that trust was not reckless, but a quiet courage. And though Rosa and Bella continued to watch, plotting in shadows, Anna felt for the first time that she had found an ally, someone who could see her, someone who would not turn away. In that simple truth, a faint light glimmered, enough to warm even the coldest nights.
The days grew longer, and with each passing moment, Anna felt a quiet strength returning to her body and spirit. Every morning, she rose before the sun, performing her chores with the same diligence as before, yet now there was a subtle shift in her posture, a light in her eyes that had been absent for months. The pain of her scars remained, but it no longer dictated her every movement. For the first time, she sensed that her life could be more than survival. David continued to walk beside her, patient and unassuming. He taught her small ways to care for herself, showing her how to cleanse her wounds gently, how to stretch without strain, how to use the herbs he brought to soothe the burns. Anna listened intently, absorbing every word, every gesture. She began to understand that healing was not just about the body, but about reclaiming the self that had been buried under years of cruelty and fear. From the windows of the grand house, Rosa and Bella watched with thinly veiled suspicion. Bella's laughter had lost its lightness, replaced by a bitter edge that Anna could sense even without meeting her gaze. Rosa's eyes, sharp as ever, followed Anna's every step. They whispered to each other in tones low enough to be unheard by anyone but themselves. Their plans were already forming, subtle and dangerous, meant to crush this emerging courage before it could grow. Yet Anna did not notice the plotting. Her attention was drawn instead to the small victories. She began walking to the well without faltering, lifting heavier buckets without hesitation, and speaking more freely with David. Each act, though simple, felt like a declaration of life. With each passing day, The ember of hope that had once flickered so faintly now glimmered brighter, warming her from within. One afternoon, as the sun slanted across the courtyard, David smiled at her progress. His praise was quiet, unassuming, but it carried a weight Anna had never known. She felt a warmth rise in her chest, a feeling that perhaps someone truly believed in her. She met his gaze and, for the first time in a long while, allowed herself to imagine a future where cruelty and fear did not define her. Still, shadows lingered. Anna knew that Rosa and Bella would not allow her peace without a fight. She sensed the eyes that followed her, the whispered conversations she could not hear fully but felt in the air. And yet, for the first time, she also felt something stronger than fear, the courage to stand, even when the storm was waiting. With David by her side and the fire of determination quietly growing within her, Anna took another step forward. Every scar, every tear, every betrayal had led her to this moment, and she was no longer willing to be the girl who endured in silence. She was beginning to fight back.
The tension in the house was thick that morning, almost suffocating. Anna moved through the hall with careful steps, aware of the sharp eyes that followed her every movement. Rosa sat at the table, her posture rigid, lips pressed into thin line, while Bella lingered nearby, her gaze flitting between Anna and David. There was a quiet menace in their silence, a warning that the fragile peace Anna had begun to savor could vanish in an instant. Anna had prepared herself for this day. She had rehearsed patience, breathed through fear, and drawn strength from the small victories of the past weeks. She knew that she could no longer allow Rosa and Bella to dictate her life. Every glance they threw her way was a challenge she would no longer avoid. The confrontation began subtly. A careless comment from Bella as she poured tea. "You think you belong here, do you?" Her tone was mocking, but sharp enough to cut through the quiet. Rosa's eyes flicked toward Anna, narrowing with cold satisfaction. The air felt electric, the weight of unspoken threats pressing down on Anna's shoulders. Anna paused, gathering herself. For years she had endured insults, beatings, and cruel manipulations, but now she stood differently. Her voice, steady though soft, cut through the tension. "I belong here as much as anyone," she said. She met Bella's gaze without flinching, and for a moment the room seemed to hold its breath. David stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. His presence was a shield, but Anna did not need it to speak. She continued, "I will not be afraid of what you do or say anymore. I will live my life no matter what you try to take from me." Rosa's face tightened, and Bella's laughter was forced, brittle like broken glass. They had not expected resistance, not from the girl they had thought too weak to rise. The confrontation escalated through sharp words and veiled threats, yet Anna remained composed. Every insult bounced off her resolve, strengthened by the fire that had been quietly growing within her. When the exchange ended, Rosa and Bella withdrew, their eyes still filled with resentment, their whispers following Anna as she moved away. She could feel the tension lingering in the hall, but now it carried a different weight. This was no longer fear. This was recognition. Rosa and Bella knew she was no longer a passive victim. And later, as she sat with David in the quiet of the garden, Anna exhaled for the first time that day. The confrontation had been frightening, but it had also been liberating. Each challenge, each attempt to undermine her courage, only confirmed one truth. She was no longer defined by their cruelty. She was defining herself. And with David beside her, Anna felt something she had almost forgotten. She was beginning to feel alive again. The days that followed the confrontation carried a strange mixture of tension and resolve. Anna moved through the house with a purpose that had once been unimaginable. Each chore she performed was no longer a duty imposed by fear, but a choice she made to prove to herself that she could survive, and more importantly, that she could thrive. The scars on her face and body remained, but they had become badges of endurance, a testament to the battles she had survived. David remained at her side, silently observing, offering advice only when asked, and giving space when she needed it. His quiet support allowed Anna to feel the weight of her courage fully. She began to speak more openly, not just to David, but also to neighbors who had long avoided her. Small gestures of connection that had once seemed impossible now felt like victories. She was slowly rebuilding her life, brick by brick, word by word. Meanwhile, Rosa and Bella grew restless. Their carefully constructed control over Anna was slipping through their fingers. The household, once a stage for their dominance, now seemed to pulse with Anna's quiet defiance. Bella's laughter no longer carried the same certainty, and Rosa's sharp glances were often accompanied by muttered curses. Every time Anna walked past them with her head held high, it was a reminder that their schemes were failing. Anna began to notice small things that had previously gone unnoticed. She observed Rosa's subtle manipulations, Bella's fleeting expressions of jealousy, and the ways the family tried to undermine her confidence. Where she once would have crumbled, she now cataloged every move, every intention, preparing herself for the day she would act decisively. Knowledge became power, and with David's counsel, she learned to use it carefully. One evening, as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the courtyard, Anna made a simple decision that felt monumental. She would no longer hide from their cruelty, no longer allow fear to dictate her actions. She started to assert herself in small, deliberate ways, speaking firmly when corrected, refusing tasks designed to humiliate her, and reclaiming spaces that had been denied to her. Each act, though seemingly small, sent ripples through the household. For the first time, Rosa and Bella seemed genuinely unsettled. Their control was weakening, and Anna could sense it. She realized that true strength was not only enduring suffering, but using it as a foundation for change. The girl who had once cowered in shadows was emerging, quiet yet unstoppable, prepared to face whatever schemes her mother and sister devised next. And as she sat with David that night, a calm determination settled over her. She knew the path ahead would not be easy, but for the first time in her life, Anna believed she could shape her own destiny.
The tension in the house was palpable. Anna moved through the familiar rooms with a newfound steadiness, each step deliberate, each gesture measured. The girl who had once trembled at every glance now walked with purpose. She had spent weeks rebuilding herself quietly, letting every cruel act of Rosa and Bella fuel her determination. Now, the moment had come to face them directly. Rosa and Bella were gathered in the sitting room, discussing arrangements for the upcoming festival in the village. Bella laughed, her voice sharp and rehearsed, while Rosa's eyes flicked constantly toward the windows, wary of Anna's presence. She entered without hesitation, letting her gaze meet theirs calmly. The room fell silent, the air thick with expectation. "You seem very confident lately," Rosa said, her voice laced with thinly veiled sarcasm. "Do you think you are more than what you have always been?" Anna paused for a heartbeat, then met her mother's icy stare. "I am more than your cruelty, more than the fear you tried to instill," she said steadily. "I am no longer the girl who hides in the shadows." Bella's lips twisted into a sneer, "And who do you think is watching now?" she asked, her tone venomous. "Do you imagine anyone cares what happens to you?" Anna held her ground. "I do not need permission to live my life," she replied, "and I do not need fear to guide me. I will make my own choices, and I will no longer allow you to dictate who I am." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Rosa's face darkened with fury, and Bella's eyes narrowed. They had underestimated her, assuming that scars and pain had left her weak. Instead, they faced a young woman tempered by suffering, calm yet unyielding. Anna continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. "Every insult, every attempt to break me has only made me stronger. Your control over me is ending. The truth of who I am cannot be hidden, and I will not allow you to destroy my life any longer." Rosa's hands clenched at her sides, and Bella's lips trembled with rage. But Anna remained unmoved. For the first time, she felt the power of her own voice, the authority that comes from surviving the worst and refusing to be broken. David appeared quietly behind her, a steady presence that reinforced her courage. She did not look at him, for she no longer needed reassurance to speak her truth. Yet knowing he was there allowed her words to resonate, unshaken by intimidation. The room was thick with silence, a charged pause where the old order trembled. Anna had taken her first step into reclaiming control, confronting the very shadows that had defined her life for so long. And in that moment, she realized something profound. Fear had shaped her past, but courage would shape her future.
The morning sun spilled through the windows, casting long beams of light across the courtyard, and Anna felt a sense of purpose she had never known before. She had spoken her truth, faced the cruelty that had shaped her life, and now it was time to act. Every step she took that day carried the weight of determination, and each small decision was a declaration that she would no longer be trapped by fear. Anna began with simple measures. She organized her tasks efficiently, finishing chores ahead of schedule, observing the subtle routines of Rosa and Bella, and noting where their control faltered. Small victories, unnoticed by many, gave her confidence. Every glance Rosa cast her way was a reminder that the household hierarchy was shifting. Bella's laughter, once a weapon, now sounded hollow against the quiet steadiness of Anna's resolve. David watched with pride, offering guidance when necessary, but allowing her to take the lead. Together, they planned subtle strategies to protect Anna from further harm. She began documenting the cruel acts, keeping track of insults, manipulations, and even small humiliations, all while maintaining the appearance of compliance. It was meticulous work, but it gave her a sense of agency she had long thought impossible. Anna also began reclaiming spaces in the house that had once been off-limits. She cleaned areas Rosa had deliberately neglected, arranging them with care and attention. It was a small act, but it symbolized control, order, and the assertion of her presence. Every step she took reminded Rosa and Bella that Anna was no longer the timid girl they could bend at will. One afternoon, Rosa attempted a subtle intimidation, sending Bella to challenge Anna with petty tasks designed to humiliate her in front of David. But Anna met each challenge with calm precision. Her hands moved confidently, her voice remained steady, and her composure was unwavering. Bella's sneers faltered, replaced by frustration, while Rosa's eyes glinted with a dangerous mix of fear and resentment. By evening, Anna felt the tangible results of her efforts. She had begun to turn her courage into action, creating a framework for change.
The embers that had sparked weeks before now glowed into a quiet fire of determination. Rosa and Bella's schemes, once seemingly insurmountable, now appeared vulnerable under Anna's calculated approach. Sitting with David in the garden as twilight descended, Anna allowed herself a moment of reflection. She realized that the girl who had been broken by cruelty was gone. In her place stood a woman prepared to face any challenge, armed not only with courage, but with intelligence, patience, and the growing strength to claim the life she deserved. And in that still golden light, Anna understood something vital. The fight was far from over, but for the first time, she was no longer afraid. She was ready to reclaim her destiny.
The quiet determination that had grown within Anna now demanded action. She had endured, healed, and regained control over her own life. But the shadows of Rosa and Bella's cruelty still lingered. It was not enough to survive silently. It was time to shine a light on their schemes, to show that their manipulation could no longer go unnoticed. Anna began carefully observing the household, noting every subtle lie, every whisper meant to humiliate or control her. She cataloged each incident in her mind, transforming fear into strategy. Rosa and Bella had assumed her scars and quiet demeanor would keep her passive, but they underestimated her patience and intelligence. Every sneer, every veiled threat now fueled a meticulous plan that Anna was forming piece by piece. David remained her steadfast ally. He helped her understand the importance of timing, of presenting truth with clarity and calm. Together, they worked quietly to document the patterns of cruelty that had long been ignored by neighbors and villagers alike. Anna realized that exposing the truth required more than anger. It required precision, courage, and the willingness to stand firm even in the face of intimidation. One afternoon, Bella attempted her usual tactics, arranging for Anna to be publicly embarrassed during the preparations for the village festival. She expected tears, panic, and submission, but Anna met the challenge with unshakable composure. She calmly corrected Bella's mistakes, completed the tasks with efficiency, and subtly drew attention to the chaos Bella had created. The villagers, previously unaware of the depth of Bella and Rosa's manipulations, began to notice the cracks in their facade. Rosa's anger simmered, her calculated control slipping further with each of Anna's measured actions. She tried to confront Anna with sharp words, but Anna now held a power Rosa could not touch, the quiet confidence born of survival and careful observation. With David at her side, she was no longer alone in her struggle, and her courage radiated in every word, every glance, every small act of defiance. By evening, Anna felt a sense of triumph, not in vengeance, but in justice. She had begun turning her experiences into action, showing the household and the village that cruelty and manipulation had limits. Rosa and Bella could scheme, but their power over her was fading with each step she took. Sitting with David under the dimming sky, Anna allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. She understood that the road ahead would still be difficult, that the battle for recognition and respect was only beginning. Yet for the first time in her life, she felt the exhilarating taste of agency, of being in control of her own story. And in that moment, Anna realized something profound. Strength was no longer about enduring pain silently. Strength was about standing tall, revealing truth, and never letting fear dictate the life she was determined to reclaim.
The atmosphere in the house had shifted. Where once fear and submission had ruled, now there was tension and uncertainty. Rosa and Bella could feel the walls of control closing in around them, their influence over Anna weakening with every act of quiet defiance. Their eyes followed her constantly, measuring her movements, anticipating her words, yet finding nothing to seize upon. Anna had become unpredictable, a force that no amount of cruelty could easily suppress. Bella's frustration simmered just beneath the surface. She had always relied on charm, manipulation, and Rosa's cunning to keep Anna in her place. Now those tools seemed ineffective. Every attempt to provoke tears or fear was met with composure. Every insult bounced back with dignity. Bella's laughter, once sharp and victorious, now carried a brittle edge of unease. Rosa, meanwhile, was calculating. Her temper simmered, but her mind worked frantically to regain control. She could not allow Anna's rise to continue unchecked. For years she had ruled the household through fear, and the idea that her daughter, the one she had favored, might witness her own downfall because of Anna was intolerable. She whispered to Bella, instructing her in careful, insidious ways to undermine Anna to regain the upper hand. But Anna was ready. Weeks of observation, quiet strategizing, and small victories had prepared her for this moment. She anticipated their tactics, deflected their manipulations, and exposed the cracks in their facade to the village. Rosa and Bella's whispers and schemes, once hidden, now began to unravel under Anna's calm, unshakable gaze. The first confrontation came unexpectedly during the festival preparations. Bella tried to humiliate Anna in front of the villagers, but Anna's steady voice and confident movements turned the scene around. The villagers, previously unaware of the family's cruelty, began to notice Bella's jealousy and Rosa's controlling demeanor. Murmurs spread like wildfire, and the balance of power shifted. Rosa's face darkened with fury, her hands clenching as she realized that the household no longer obeyed her silent commands. Bella's forced smile faltered, her frustration plain for all to see. Anna stood tall, every scar a testament to her endurance, every word a declaration that cruelty could no longer define her life.
The village seemed different that morning. The sun rose with a warmth that mirrored the change in Anna herself. She moved through the familiar streets with confidence, each step a quiet declaration of her growth. The people who had once overlooked her cruelty now saw a young woman transformed by resilience, courage, and unyielding determination. Anna was no longer invisible. Within the house, the tension between her and Rosa and Bella had reached a tipping point. Their schemes, so carefully planned for years, had begun to unravel in plain sight. Yet instead of confrontation, Anna chose strategy. She demonstrated competence and kindness in subtle ways that highlighted their flaws, without needing to speak harshly. Every action was deliberate, every word a measure of control. She had learned that true power did not always roar. Sometimes it revealed itself in quiet confidence and steady resolve. David remained beside her, a calm presence, but Anna no longer needed him to shield her. He was a partner, a witness to her growth, and a reminder that trust could be earned and nurtured. Together, they worked on the small victories, repairing the house, assisting the villagers, and gently exposing the patterns of cruelty Rosa and Bella had hidden for so long. The turning point came during a simple village gathering. Rosa attempted to assert control, commanding attention with a practiced authority, while Bella tried to charm the villagers with superficial smiles. Yet Anna's calm composure and quiet competence drew admiration effortlessly. Eyes that had once ignored her now lingered on her every move. Whispers of respect and recognition spread among the villagers, signaling a shift that Rosa and Bella could not stop. As evening fell, Anna stood in the courtyard, the fading light casting long shadows behind her. She looked at the house, at the women who had caused her so much pain, and felt neither hatred nor fear. She felt strength, clarity, and the knowledge that her life was no longer dictated by cruelty. But even as victory settled around her, Anna sensed the horizon held new challenges, trials that would test her courage in ways she had not yet imagined. And in that quiet moment, she reflected on the lessons learned. Resilience grows in the face of suffering.
Courage is born from enduring, and true strength lies in reclaiming one's own story. Thank you, dear viewers, for following Anna's journey. Her story reminds us that even in the darkest moments, hope and determination can illuminate a path forward. What would you do if you were in Anna's shoes? Could you find the courage to rise above fear and reclaim your life?